Afternoon. Welcome to the House Higher Education Budget Committee meeting, continuing budget recommendations from yesterday. I apologize for starting a little late, but appreciate everybody's time and attention. We'll go ahead and hopefully pick up where we left off. I believe we were still continuing with items listed under Kansas State University when we stopped the meeting yesterday. Does anybody else have anything for Kansas State University? Anything else for K-State University? Okay, we can always come back to it later as well. Anybody have anything for Wichita State University? And I just looked over to my right, and I just wanted to welcome to the committee Representative Holheisel. Has replaced Representative Wassinger on the committee today. So welcome to the committee. So nothing under Wichita State University, University of Kansas. Vice Chair Blue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have one for the Med Center, and I wasn't sure if you want to do University of Kansas and then go to the Medical Center. Mine's just a notation.
We can do University of Kansas, then go to the Med.
Okay, medical. I will hold tight.
After that, that'd be fine. Representative Amix.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have an amendment, if it's appropriate at this time to talk about the demolition.
You may talk about your amendment while it's being distributed to the committee.
Mr. Chairman, we received a list from the Board of Regents of a number of buildings that were scheduled for demolition through our $10 million appropriations of monies for the Board of Regents facilities. And on the list was Smith Hall at the University of Kansas in Lawrence. And we had received a number of communications about that building. That building includes the statue of Moses in the front and beautiful stained glass window. And a number of people were concerned because the grading system on that facility was a B as in boy. And there were a number of questions. I think, Chairman, you received a number of communications. I've seen other members did. I know I've received quite a few back home in Lawrence. So my amendment does really one thing. It is during fiscal years 23 and 24. It talks about that there will be no expenditures of monies until such time there was discussion about a master plan on the for the university as to future of the university and this building, one of the buildings slated to be removed. And anyway, what happens is we put the monies on hold for demolition while a review following this master planning that's done and request made the Board of Regents to hold a public meeting where there'll be public comment because there's a number of people that believe that they haven't been heard, about the project. And then the thing that happens is that we have the Board of Regents, the members that are present, the majority of the members that are present vote in the positive on whether or not to proceed with the demolition. And this is, again, fiscal years 23 and 24.
Well, is there a second, or would you like to? Okay, that's your motion. It's been seconded by Representative Rajas. Any discussion? Representative Woodard.
Mr. Chair, thank you, Representative, for bringing this. Are you aware of any other instances where the Board of Regents holds public hearings with public comment?
Representative, I am not. I don't believe that is their general procedure.
Are they ADA compliant in that building?
I don't.
I think if my memory is correct, served me correctly when I was taking religious studies at KU, there was not, because we had someone in our core. So I think a conversation about where Smith Hall is going or what giving people chance for public comment, I think, is fine. I just wonder if the Board of Regents is the right body for that.
Well, if I could, Mr. Chairman, know that I questioned that myself. I want you to know I think the perfect body to hear it would be, our body here, because it is the money that's appropriated through here. And, we would obviously have that opportunity to do that. Probably, and I don't want to say better than the Board of Regents, but we are at least accessible to everybody if we wanted to do it also.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I propose a substitute to this motion that really just a slight verbiage there on the second to last sentence that says that such plans should be presented to the State Board of Regents at a public meeting, that should read, that I would like to have to read, that such plans shall be presented to the House Higher Education Budget Committee.
Representative Holheisel, I think, saw him first, seconded the substitute motion. Thank you. If I could get a clarification from the reviser in terms of moving forward with fiscal years and kind of the timeline as it relates to this overall amendment.
So, sir, I would just like clarification. Do you want it to be done this session? And so, like, in April, when you all come back, that you would hold a meeting, the chairman would call a meeting and you would hold that, so it would just be this? Or are you anticipating it that the demo would be stopped until over the interim, and then you could also do it next fiscal year?
I do not want to have a meeting on this in April. So I guess in my mind, I'm thinking everything is on hold, and then that public hearing will be held early next year before our budget process, Mr. Chairman. That's if that language is acceptable.
So would you like to restate that in terms of
So we would go up to full 5. It says of the Appropriations Act of the 2023 regular session. That should be 2024 then. Is that correct?
reviser?
Sir, if you want this to happen next year, it would probably just be most prudent to have this apply for fiscal year 24. And so I can make all the conforming amendments. If you want to have the hearing next session, that we would say for fiscal year 24, money shall be stopped until X happens.
Yes. Yeah. Anything would say 23. So right. So just the cleanup language, basically, yes.
So adding that language as part of your substitute.
Yes, and adding that language. So with the idea being that there's time for people to be aware that's going to happen, and then in January or whenever next session, this committee, then, Mr. Chairman, you would have time. You would have the appropriate time to have a hearing, and then it gives people opportune time, and also by then, there may be a further plan as some of this language says, to kind of know where we're going, but also to give folks an I mean, this is one of the iconic pieces on the University of Kansas that we need to, it's trying to be bipartisan here. So
Thank you, Representative. Is there any other discussion? Representative Woodard.
Mr. Chair. Thank you for the substitute motion. I'm pulling up the course catalog at KU, and it doesn't look like there are any courses being offered in Smith Hall. And I believe that they've already moved faculty and students out of the space. So my hesitation with going into 2020, fiscal year 2024, is that we're just going to have to put a chain and a padlock on the building since it's not currently in use. So I think I could support this if it was fiscal year 2023. I don't know what we would accomplish if we did it in fiscal year 2024.
Mr. Chairman,
Representative Rogers.
I yield to Representative Amix.
Representative Amix.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, you say that it's totally empty now? I was under the impression that there was a few offices that are left there.
Sure.
Representative Woodard.
I mean, I'm not seeing any courses offered. There might be faculty. I think this is an indication of what how a hearing might be helpful.
Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Representative Amix.
What if we leave FY 23 and 24? That gives us some flexibility. The hearing, if we have to have it this year.
That would seem okay to me, Representative Woodard.
So you are saying that if something happened before that, we would need to take the full committee appropriations would need to take this part out of the budget if it was addressed before the end of the session.
Is there further discussion on the amendment substitute? Representative Smith.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I was just wondering, instead of saying the State Board of Regents, we said the House Education Committee, or would it be the Higher Ed Committee?
I believe including the substitute motion, it does refer it back to, in lieu of the Kansas Board of Regents, it would be our committee here, House.
Thank you.
Higher Education Budget Committee. Further discussion.
Chairman.
Representative Rogers.
I guess I have two things. One, you want to have a hearing in April.
Representative Rogers, I appreciate the question. I do know appropriations is going to have to meet sometime in April. Not exactly sure what dates are. Do I want to meet in April? Not necessarily. Kansas Board of Regents is the governing body of the Regent universities. They're closer to the overall day-to-day function of the universities and implementing the reduction of campus footprint and deferred maintenance issues. So I guess I'm not really strongly opinionated. If it's the will of the committee to do the public forum under our committee, I'll certainly do that. However, I believe each Board of Regent meeting is open to the public. So it's not like they haven't done all their meetings are open to the public unless they go into executive session. However, I know this might be a different format, but in lieu of us perhaps sending this to the Joint Building Committee or something like that, who handles some of these issues, state property and things like that. I don't know what the best solution is, but I do know there are a number of stakeholders or community members that are very concerned about what may or may not happen to the Smith Hall, because the University of Kansas hasn't really put out much information about their intention, at least that I've seen, of what they would do with the property afterwards. So it leaves a lot unsaid. So I think I want to ensure the integrity of capital renewal projects across all Regent universities, including the money appropriated for demolition. I want to ensure that we achieve our goals. And so I don't want to get in the middle of that. But I do understand, these community members do have some very good points. For example, it's my understanding the university did not purchase this property until I want to say it's 1998, maybe it's 1999. I can't remember exactly sure, but one of those 2 years. But that building housed the religious studies program since 1977. So there's some history there. And prior to that, there was a fundraising effort with private monies to construct and build this structure. I've even seen one of the donor list, and one of the people that donated to that building lives. His father, well, I guess it's his son, lives 2 doors down from me in Salina. Very big, adamant supporters of University of Kansas. I haven't talked to him about this particular issue, but I do know there's a real community interest in what happens to the building or the statue outside, the stained glass window. I believe the University of Kansas is trying to consider these factors as they work on their capital master plan, if you will, for their campus. And this piece is in there somewhere, but of course, we don't have any certainty. So if it's will of the committee to come back at some point in time, I'll certainly do my best to schedule it at a time that we can all be here. But really, it's up to the will of the committee. Any other discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote on the substitute amendment. All Representative Amex or Representative Raj has asked for clarification about the fiscal year for staff and the committee, just to make sure we're all on the same page.
Well, upon listening to the conversation, I will withdraw my substitute motion. I think it may be a moot point. So I will withdraw my motion. I apologize.
Representative Hoheisel consents to the withdrawal. Okay, so we're back on the original amendment. Is there any further discussion on the original amendment? Representative Amex, you may close on your amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I close on my amendment.
Thank you, Representative. All in favor of the Amex amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. Motion passes. Or amendment adopted. Further considerations under the University of Kansas. I do have an amendment. I'd ask staff. This is regarding the Kansas Geological Survey. Okay, so I guess I'll explain my amendment. We heard when the University of Kansas presented their budget recommendations, they gave a portion of that time to the Kansas Geological Survey, and we heard testimony from Dr. Jay Kalbus, the state geologist. And I'm trying to do all this from memory. But basically, over the last 20 years, the Kansas Geological Survey has had flat funding. which has meant that they haven't been able to retain a lot of their expertise and people in key roles within their agency. For example, if someone moved on to say, perhaps took another job in another state that was higher paying and things like that, they weren't able to replace that. Photo, how much data is collected there, and is quite a resource to the U.S. Geological Survey as well. As I understand it, the Kansas Geological Survey is one of the top 3 geological surveys in the United States. And in order to hopefully keep it that way, I think we need to try to look for ways to support it. I did send out an email prior to the meeting today. I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew there was a folder on the S drive that contained letters of support from I've got Connie Owen, Director, Kansas Water Office. This is Leo Henning, Director of Environment from KDHE. I've got Got a letter of support from Acting Secretary of Transportation Calvin Reed. Also have a letter of support from Barexo LLC, Dana Reith, Executive Vice President. So with that being said, I've probably gone on too long. Is there a second? Representative Woodard is seconded. Open for discussion. Any discussion or questions? Representative Fairchild.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do we have a count on the total number of spending increases that we've passed since this discussion started?
You'd like an overall amount of enhancements? Yeah. I could ask staff to see if there could be a number that could be given to the committee. What I've done with this request is try to break it out over 2 fiscal years instead of doing it all at once. I know there's a sensitivity, at least in the Appropriations Committee, about some of these things. And so I thought it'd be maybe a little bit easier to do it over 2 years. That way the agency could report back their success at filling these positions and moving forward with some of their key initiatives. Representative Fairchild.
Mr. Chairman, I'm willing to withdraw my request if it's that hard to figure out.
I think we need to kind of figure out where we're at. That'd be appropriate. So we'll just stand at ease here for a minute. That's important. So while they're looking for that number, I'll go ahead and just share a little bit more information about the Kansas Geological Survey and their need for more support from us as legislators. So their average staff or scientists, if you will, earn 19 to 25% lower than their peers. And so that's been data that if you compare Kansas Geological Survey against an average wage from those in the same field in the southern U.S., it's up to 25% lower. So retention is definitely a key workforce issue for everybody across the board, but especially at one of our nation's top research institutions, the Kansas Geological Survey. So I would appreciate the committee's consideration of this important request. Representative Smith has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with what you just said 100%. And as I read the middle one here, you know, it says we're going to hire 5 full-time positions and 2 part-time positions. Now, a part-time position, these people have to be well educated. Are we going to hire a retiree maybe that? And then it says 1 part-time scientist. Again, I mean, it'd be hard to hire a part-time scientist. These people are pretty skilled, and to find a part-time person, I just wonder about that. So thank you.
Representative Smith, for informational purposes only, I would call up to the podium Dr. Jay Calbus, and maybe you could speak to that a little bit because, you know, it's been some time. There's been a lot of things that have happened since you were here the first time, so it's kind of hard for us to recall everything from memory. So if you could clarify that a little bit to Representative Smith's question.
Looks like it's red now. Representative Smith, these aren't part-time positions. These are split FTEs between programs. So 0.5 and 0.5 would be split across a water program and an energy program.
Thank you for clarifying that. Appreciate it. Representative Rajas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just kind of for clarification, we're not going to want to do anything. I mean, basically this is starting, typically we do 23, 24. So we're starting at 24 to go at 25 is a whole deal unto itself. But I mean, I think I understand what you're trying to do. So just kind of so I understand, you're wanting to add to the geological survey, upgrade the lab facility, basically starting January 1, and then as part of this budget, still is a 2-year budget in a sense, then adding more employees in FY25. I mean, I'm seeing that. I want to make sure that's where you're wanting to go.
This proposal is kind of a phased-in approach. I mean, we could certainly put it all under FY24, but I thought maybe it'd be better to kind of break it up, stair step it a little bit, do part of it with 24 expenditures or appropriations, and the remaining with FY25. Of course, the capital improvement for the laboratory facility would be FY24. Any other questions? Oh, I do, the staff does have a report back to us of official number. Brianna.
Yes, thank you, committee. The total for all of the things we have done prior to the KU geological survey is 14,884,260. So 14.8 million.
14,884,260. Okay. Any other questions? Representative Rogers.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize if I am trying to not talk so fast that people understand. Boy, this is something that a few years ago, it was a fight to get the basics funded. This is something that is extremely important, and it has implications even far beyond Kansas. But I think we've got a good leader now at the helm, and I think we have a good leader in the head of Chancellor Gerard that sees the importance of this. And so I would strongly encourage. I understand we're adding these dollars up, but that's kind of our role as a budget committee. We'll find out where tax policy is as we get further on. But if we don't do it here, I think these things come out of committee. It brings a sense of us, because we're the ones that do our due diligence and not the appropriations. But I would be in strong favor of this as presented. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Are there any other questions or comments? Representative Amix.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Week or so ago, I had the opportunity to hear my colleague to my left here talk about from the well in the House chamber about the historic nature of the bills that we had passed on from the Water Committee. And I think that as we look at the work that's done by Geological Survey and the importance of everything that they have here, and as you've recommended, I think that this is just another step to talk about the importance of water in our state and where we go as a future, and how important the stuff that we have, the equipment that we have, and everything that we have that needs to be cataloged and saved. So, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? If not, I'll close on my amendment. All in favor of the enhancement request for the Kansas Geological Survey under the University of Kansas for fiscal year 24 and 25, signify by saying aye. All opposed, nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. Other considerations for the University of Kansas. If not, we'll move on. Anything? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, Vice Chair Blue.
Thank you. I just have a note for the med center. The number one thing that has been an issue I've noticed with talking to rural hospitals is that they don't have the housing for when they have med students come to their hospitals. And so I don't have an official proviso. I don't think it's the proper place to put it in this in their budget, but I am asking if we can make a note to the appropriations committee if they could look at adding $5 million for a pilot program for rural hospitals. And the definition, we already know what rural means, so it has to be rural hospitals can apply for that money to assist them with housing for med students. And I think that the pilot program would be great if it's a 1-to-1 match. So that way there is local dollars going in and the state can help kick in. Like I said, it's just a notation. There's no official ask for money wise for this committee.
Thank you, Vice Chair Blue. Would there be a second to include this notation in the budget recommendation? Representative Hoheisel, thank you. It's been moved and seconded to include this notation in the budget recommendations. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of including this notation in the budget recommendation, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We'll adopt that notation in the budget recommendation. Vice Chair Blue, does staff have that as well?
I'm looking at them and I hope so. I'll send it over to them as well.
Okay, very good. Next, have Washburn University. Is there any proposed amendments or anything for Washburn? All right, seeing none, we can move on to the Kansas Community Colleges. Looks like Representative Rajas.
Sorry, you want to go there? You want to go back, or you want to go ahead and do other things after we get the agenda done?
So we'll kind of go through kind of what the daily agenda is, then I'll circle back at the end to see if there was anything that we didn't cover yesterday, or if there's something from yesterday that someone wants to re-offer in perhaps a different format or something like that, and we can do it at that time.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a proviso. Just pick one. I got more than one. Whatever's the top. I just do 3 first, but you just do whichever one you want. I apologize. I've got several of them here, and I didn't get that printed off. I have it, but I apologize. Yes. So go by quick if you just all agree, and we'll just keep moving. Thank you.
Representative Rajas, if you'd like to explain your amendment as it's being distributed to the committee.
This basically adds language to institute the 3-year rolling average of 5% personnel cost increase using existing funds that are still there. So this is not adding additional SGF. And cutting college funding more than the model indicates after doing the average of increase within existing resources to be cut by 50%. What you're seeing is the language that is highlighted and is what we're adding. That was kind of an explanation there. What shows in the tiered, non-tiered, those are the dollar amounts that are there. So the money that would come out is money that's in a sense would be reappropriated. That's still in there.
It's been seconded by Representative Woodard. Is there further discussion about the amendment for tiered and non-tiered, I guess, the Rajas amendment?
Just one, maybe.
Representative Blue.
Thank you. I just want to make sure I understand. It's the gap spreadsheet that we received, their funding plus 5%.
The money of the money that's in that account. So yes, that it would be a 5% in to
Okay.
help for operations.
Okay. Thank you.
Representative Rajas, it's my understanding that the community colleges don't have a reappropriation authority, so this would basically take existing funds and they would be able to use that. Is that correct?
Right. I mean, define reappropriations, but that money is there. That is kind of as a role, and so with this, looking at the numbers from the 3-year rolling average, then that's the money that would be allocated of funds that are already there. This is not adding any money in SGF.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of the Raj's amendment signify by saying aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Amendment is adopted. Representative Rajas, would you like to do your next amendment?
I mean, we'll get through them all, so whichever one you grab. Yeah, the one would be fine.
We'll call this Rajas amendment number 1 under community colleges. Representative Rajas, if you wanted to start explaining that as it's being distributed.
Well, I would if my papers were better organized. I will tell you here in about 3 seconds. This one is dealing with cybersecurity. And I believe that this is something that they requested, the governor pulled out. This would go to the community colleges. I know we've had a lot of discussion about cybersecurity and even appropriations. And we tried to pull that out here. You know, we do a lot of focus on students, and this is one that not only we want student records hacked, students to have a safe environment as we do online learning and other things. So what this does is this provides the funding for them to be able to continue to move forward with cybersecurity measures.
Representative Amix.
Mr. Chair, just clarification, you said community college, but it's community and technical college.
I'm sorry, you're right, Representative. Tech and community colleges, yes.
Thank you for the clarification. Representative Woodard has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For this amendment, it says 13 million, but there's already 6.5 million in the budget, correct? So this is just double that.
What this does is so there's, instead of the half that was proposed, this will be full funding.
The agency requested 13, the governor
cut it in half.
And this is just putting it back.
This is putting back in.
Great, thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Representative Smith.
Forgive me for not quite understanding that. This is going to pay for the Navigator program that was.
Representative Rajas, if you'd like to respond.
No, this is for cybersecurity to help so we don't have, to protect from hacking and from other takeovers. This is not the Navigator. What this is.
I just have a different.
You got the next ones. You're ahead of us all.
Did any representatives get the incorrect proviso amendment?
Yes.
Keep this.
Representative Fairchild.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know that Representative Rod has answered the question of, whether it was a increase of 13 million or a 6.5 million increase, but on all of our other provisos, it actually said what the enhancement is. On this one, it just said the full amount. I mean, should it be written in a way, that goes on the record that shows the enhancement amount rather than just the full amount?
I'll direct that question to staff.
Yes, sir. So when we would put it in the budget, we would just add 6.5 to it for a total of 13 million. And then this language would be added so that each community college and technical colleges receives that amount.
Representative Fairchild, does that answer? Okay. Other questions? Any other discussion? Representative Amix? Representative Amix seconded before we get too far in the discussion, so I appreciate that. So it's been moved and seconded to consider the Raj's amendment on cybersecurity support for the technical colleges and community colleges. Is there further discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of this proposed amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman,
Representative Rogers.
have another one, which would be, yes, just two then. Mr. Chairman, what this is 2.6 million for the Navigator program. Each community college and technical college would be $100,000 for the purposes of hiring a navigator to assist and advise students enrolling in to increase student success.
Second.
Representative Smith seconds the motion. Is there discussion? Representative Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple daughters that are counselors in school, and you know, a lot of times a young person will work hard their freshman, sophomore, junior year. Then when they get to their senior year, they don't need the credits and they kind of coast in, and they don't take classes they really should take in order to succeed in where they're going. So I think this Navigator program is a good thing, and they need to hear, hey, you don't get a semester off. You got to take college algebra or whatever. And I think the Navigator will not be at the communities college much. I think they'll be out running around seeing all the high school counselors and students and so forth. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Sawyer.
Just a clarification. I mean, I do agree the Navigator program is a good program, but when I look at their original request, they requested 1.9 million. Of course, the governor gave them 0. So you're giving them 700,000 more than they requested.
To cover everybody. I don't know if everybody was covered.
Well, there are 19 community colleges.
Right. 7 technical.
Oh, you're doing the technical college. Okay.
Is there further discussion? Questions for staff? I did have a question, perhaps for staff or the carrier of the amendment. Would this be considered one-time enhancement money, or would this be needed in the future to sustain the program?
I believe that this is one time to start. See how this is something, as far as it's not added into, I guess, ongoing at this time.
So
this is something new. We talked about it, and it looked like from the community college tech standpoint to get those high schools to kind of help, you know, get the right path down the road. So I guess I don't necessarily want to do this. I mean, I would say we'll see that first year of success. If it's something we need to continue to move on, and that's for discussion for another day. But I think for right now, this would get it set up and started, and then see where the success is.
thank you, Representative. The way I read the amendment, it says that it would be for the purposes of hiring a college navigator. So I would think that would be a reoccurring expense. So this, it's hard to read between the lines here, but perhaps this would be money that would need to be funded again in future years, but I'm not for certain. That's why I was asking.
Mr. Chairman,
Representative, I'm not saying I'm against it. I've just clarification because, you know, I'll have to report when I report out to appropriations. I just want to be armed with all the knowledge. So if
Mr. Chairman, if we do fiscal year 24 and 25, now the program cost is 5.2 billion, based on what we know right now. I guess I'm comfortable with other enhancements. I'm comfortable for a 1 year, see how it works.
Further discussion? Seeing none, it's been, Representative Smith.
You know, I would be comfortable with one, but I think it's going to happen late enough in the school year that that teacher or navigator needs to know what's going to happen, and we wouldn't tell them till April. So I think a 2-year thing would be good. And again, you're not spending any more per year. You're 2.6 for 1 year and 2.6 for the next. So it's not like you're throwing it all on 1 year. That's just my thoughts. Thank you very much.
Any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote with the Raj's amendment for the College Navigator Program for the community and technical colleges. All in favor of this amendment signify by saying aye. All opposed, nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. Motion carries. Representative Rajas, do you have another amendment?
I believe I have one more, right? It was a long day yesterday, Mr. Chairman, so yes, we'll bring the next one.
Representative Rajas, if you'd like to explain your
This
proposed amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is just to add on to the language at the end of the State Board of Regents SGF request on determination of the amount of reimbursement for each eligible college. Such amounts to be increased by 5% to assist in covering the rising personnel costs. So this is, I think, just to include everybody in the conversation if we look at dealing with rising costs.
Vice Chair Blue.
What makes this different than what you gave us before on the tiered and non-tiered for the 5%?
I think this kind of goes along with it. It just is additional language to it. So to make sure everybody's included.
Is there a?
I'm sorry, you're right. This is different than this is a new money rather than the earlier what I had was money that was already there, correct?
I'll ask staff to clarify that question, if you would.
So excuse me, sir, if I have this wrong, but this amendment provides no new money. It just gives a 5% increase on what is already there to be divided up.
I'm sorry, yes. Mr. Chairman, there's so many of them. I'm sorry. Yes, that's what this is.
Additional questions for the revisor or staff? Representative Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Help me out. It's money that's already there. Where is it? I'm a little confused on that.
Representative Smith, I would direct the answer to the carrier of the amendment or to staff. Representative Rajas, if you'd like to direct staff to clarify that a little bit further, Supervisor.
Thank you, sir. It's in the bill on page 185, and the amount that's appropriated is 39,850,000. And so this doesn't add any new money. It's just of the expenditures that are being made from that account. So it'd be dividing up the money with that escalator.
And a question for the revisor, is that affecting technical colleges as well as community colleges, or only community colleges?
So this is I think we call it CTE money. Yeah, like that might mean something to somebody, SB 155 money.
If I could add, Shirley, if you'd like to add some context to that as well, or Brianna.
This is the Career Tech Education account, which is what we call SB 155. This are students that are in high school taking technical classes through either a technical college or a community college. This is the reimbursement for their tuition.
Thank you. Further discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote on Raj's amendment for tuition for technical education account. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Vice Chair Blue, I believe you have an amendment.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have two amendments. First, let's do the 5 million for capital outlay. And this amendment is dealing with, so I just want you guys to know we're not doing it double. The first one that we had on that Representative Fairchild had is for the 7 tech colleges and the 9 community colleges that currently have the authority to do CT or do capital outlay. This one, do you guys have it? No? Yeah, 5 million. Okay. This is for the community colleges that do not receive capital outlay dollars. Just want to note too, if you want to know where the money's going, and if I were to have drafted this, I would have drafted a little differently. So I don't know if we could go on the fly. If not, no big deal. But it was in the what we got from the community colleges, how it would be broken out for the 5 million. And I will pull that up.
Vice Chair Blue.
If I get a second on this, I'd also like to do I'm looking to Jill, a substitute motion to go further into detail, and it's on the tech colleges, what we receive from them, and what the dollar amount would be. So, like for instance, Butler would be receiving a little over 1.2 million, but that the rest of them are receiving less than $1 million, obviously.
It's been seconded by Representative Hoheisel to include the additional breakout of funds detailed with the amendment. Further discussion? Any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of the blue amendment signify by saying aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion passes. Vice Chair Blue, if you'd like to move on to your next amendment.
Second amendment, and this is what I need to look to staff on. Due to the 5% increase, the numbers are not going to be correct of what I presented, what I have broken out. So would it just be updated on my transparency? All right, committee. So this was my plan, and I don't know how we're going to move forward and whatnot, but call me Transparency Tory. I wanted to break out each community college and tech college, just based off the numbers that we receive from the Board of Regents, and just give everybody their own line item. I'm an accountant by trade. I think it needs to be more clear, clean cut, so forth. The hard part is we already added 5% on top. And I guess there were some changes made between fiscal year and uh, academic year. So I don't know how to move forward. I don't know if we could make this notation and get updated numbers, and hopefully appropriations could look at this furthermore. Me personally, I don't feel comfortable offering an amendment when the numbers are not correct, based off of the work that we've done so far in this committee. So I think that's
Vice Chair Blue, what is your question? So just so the committee.
I'm going to ask appropriations if you guys would be inclined to making a notation for appropriations once now they will have the new updated numbers. As appropriations as a whole, you guys can, or that committee can review everything. If that is not done in time, then I will be offering this on the floor. This is no additional money. I'm just trying to break out exactly. So I ask also too, if I could get updated numbers from the Board of Regents after everything. I have your guys' numbers as well. So we're moving forward on it. So I don't have an amendment. I can't have an amendment, but I just want everyone to know the intent of what I was planning on doing.
Vice Chair Blue, are you asking to withdraw your amendment?
There was no amendment to be.
Oh, sorry. Okay. I thought Hoheisel seconded that one too. So sorry for misunderstanding. Next amendment, or any amendments on community colleges? Question? Yep.
What was your question?
I was under the impression that she had moved her motion and it was received a second. So I jumped the gun on that. I apologize. Lost track. Yep. Are there any other amendments dealing with community colleges? Representative Amix.
My question comes in under the community and tech colleges, and it's the additional $6.5 million that the Rogers Amendment. If appropriations were to not consider that, would it be appropriate to make a motion at this time that in the event that that's not something that appropriations will fund, that we could have that considered or reconsidered at omnibus? I mean, I think it's such an important issue that I'd hate to see it get, if it were to be turned down, I think it still needs its day. You said omnibus.
We can certainly include that in a recommendation for sure. It doesn't mean the appropriations will include that or not. I don't know. I don't know if they would pull that out of a recommendation to omnibus. So it's really up to the will of the committee what you'd want to do with that. I'm fine with that. Representative Amex, did you have anything else, or I guess I really didn't answer your question. So,
Well, I didn't know if we had to add a motion in the event that it was turned down at omnibus. That or I'm turned down in appropriations, the $6.5 million for cybersecurity. If it would be appropriate to ask that it be referred to omnibus.
So you're asking for like a notation on that?
Yes.
I mean, that's certainly something we could add as a notation. If the committee, I mean, is representative wanting to add that notation?
Please.
Okay. So is that your motion?
I'll move.
Okay. Representative Amix has moved to add a notation that if the appropriations committee
Appropriations does not see their way clear to fund the $6.5 million for the community and tech colleges cybersecurity, that it be referred or deferred until time of.
Is there a second? It's been seconded by Representative Woodard. And a comment.
Second it so we can have the discussion. My only fear of putting this in as a notation is that you're giving the appropriations committee an excuse to then delete the funding. Happy to support you either way. And if they don't, you can count on at least I'm happy to make that recommendation in committee in appropriations, whether this goes on or not.
That being the case, Mr. Chair.
Representative Amix.
I would be happy to pull my my motion if at the time of appropriations consideration that were to happen.
So you're requesting to remove your requested notation? Good. Okay, Representative Woodard consents to that as well. Thank you for the discussion. Anything else under the Kansas Community Colleges? If not, we'll proceed with anything under the purview of the Kansas Technical Colleges.
Chairman.
Representative Rajas.
Amendment.
Staff, please distribute that and you can explain your amendment.
It is for technical college operations, $10.5 million. This would be 1.5 for operations from the 7 technical colleges. This also will have each institution submitting a report to the House of Representatives Committee on Appropriations and the Senate Ways and Means on or before January 8th of next year on long-term plans to sustain the operational costs of each college or institute.
Has everybody received a copy of the amendment? Give everybody a chance to look it over. Any questions for the revisor or KLRD staff? Representative Smith.
You know, I'm all for it. I just come from a program where, you know, gosh, we had to talk about $150. Now we're talking about $10.5 million. And that just kind of, where's it come from? I just, if we have it, great. But I don't know what's out there. So I just feel, you know, I'm all for it, but yet there's like I say, I don't understand what's there to use and what's there not to. So it confuses me a little bit when I see these numbers. So thank you very much.
Representative Rogers, did you want to comment on that?
And I appreciate, and I understand that. I appreciate that. And, you know, it's just like, we talk about big numbers. It's just the same thing when we do a bill. It's not going anywhere. There's a cost to that. It's not, we print a bill, it's not free. And so, sometimes we don't talk about that, when we try to make a point. So my point is this: technical colleges, when they came to us, wanted $21 million. In working with stakeholders, this is what we come up with to help them meet their needs, what they need right now. This is a one time, this is 1 year. This isn't adding to their base. This is one time, gives them a year to help with the projects, these 3 big projects that have come to the state, to help them ramp up and to provide them, because whether it be facilities or whatever, and then to come back in a year and say, here's our plan for long-term funding. What role is the state? What role is whatever? And so, yes, we put a lot of money into technical over the last few years. I see that. I know that, but it is one of the quickest ways to turn around. And so, you know, it's not 21 million, it's 10.5. And yes, my first time on this committee or appropriations, you have to get used to looking at things with a couple extra zeros on it. To me, a representative, $150 is a lot of money. And so 10.5, you know, is something like, you know, a little brain maybe can't comprehend. But anyway, that's the situation in discussion with interested personnel is where we come up with this.
Is there a second? Representative Amix has seconded the proposed amendment for the technical college operation. Further discussion? I guess I'll make a brief comment. Is you know, when I started the committee meeting yesterday, I kind of threw out there a host of deletions, and it's really hard to figure out where we should maybe part ways with the governor's budget recommendation. You could certainly argue there's merit to all of these different line items, but I did so as a way to create perhaps maybe more latitude and opportunity for the need for investment with our technical colleges. In terms of workforce and all of the commitments our state has made, in terms of economic development and things like that, I think really this talent pipeline is no more, I guess, acute and impactful in many of our communities as what is generated through our technical colleges. So I was hoping to support, further investment by the state of Kansas for our tech colleges because of its direct impact in many of our industries and our communities. And most of those students, regardless of whatever trade they pursue, do stay in Kansas and are contributing members to our schools, our communities, our school boards, all sorts of civic organizations. And so I would support this additional funding. But I am a little, and of course, I think appropriations will certainly tell us what their priorities are. But really, I guess my point was, if all things are priorities, then nothing really is a priority. And so that's what I was trying to do yesterday, is trying to establish a little bit of a lower baseline for where we would go into appropriations. So, but I'm glad to support this. For further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote with the Raj's proposed amendment for technical college operations. All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Any other amendments or considerations that affect our Kansas technical colleges? If not, move on to the Kansas independent colleges or the non-for-profit colleges or universities or the private universities or colleges. Does anybody have anything specific to them? Vice Chair Blue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mine is for the Kansas Comprehensive Grant. And I stated this during committee when we had the hearing, and so basically what I'm doing is I'm taking the language that I received from the independent colleges.
Would you like me to have that distributed to the committee? Okay. If staff would distribute that to the committee, and Vice Chair Blue, you can continue with your explanation.
So it's been relayed to us that it's not written anywhere, the 50-50 match that was relayed to us. So this is just in this amendment, it is stating that there is a 50-50 match on the comprehensive grant dollars. Yeah. I don't know if you want to explain it, Jill, if I'm not doing a good enough job on it. My brain's elsewhere. And in 24, I'm making up for the lost dollars that that the independents feel like they were left out on in the year previous.
If I don't know, Shirley, Brianna, or Jill, one of you could maybe provide just kind of a perhaps macro view of what that amendment specifically does. Yeah, I'm sorry. With the amendment.
So it is my understanding that in fiscal year 23, the amount did not get split half and half. And so that's why in 24, you see that the number going to private and independents is 22.5. But then in FY 25, it is split 50-50, as you see that there.
Bill, I guess my question would be, I'm new to this committee. But the state comprehensive grant program, as I understand it, I think there was a base amount that was traditionally appropriated, but then in the last session, there was an additional amount of money added on top of the base, and that was perhaps 19 million. And so was it just the 19 million that was treated differently than the 16 million? So the 16 million was appropriated more on an equal basis, but the additional 19 perhaps was, there was a different methodology for that. If you could share some more information for the committee about that.
That is correct, Mr. Chair. The other aspect to this amendment is in last year's appropriations bill, the 19 million had a 1-to-1 match. And in this amendment, the match is 100% of the amount in the comprehensive grant, not just the 19 million.
Is there any other questions for staff about the proposed amendment? Did I hear a second? Seconded by Representative Smith. I have to ask that question because I've thought we've seconded things we haven't seconded today, so I apologize. That's what happens when you wake up at 2 a.m. and you stay awake. Further discussion. Representative Woodard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've been supportive of extra funding in the past for the Kansas Comprehensive Grant. I know it has shifted from different years, sometimes half split, sometimes it fluctuates a little bit. I feel like this proviso is one more time that we're trying to tell the Board of Regents, who governs these funds, how to do their job. But But really, for me, the biggest hiccups for this is that our independent colleges make up 12% of the student population, and we heard in committee that they are very proud of the fact that half of their students come from out of state, meaning that we are now splitting $35 million for 6% of the student share, with $35 million with the institutions making up 88% of the student share. And so while I certainly support our independent colleges, I think that, you know, they are getting a lot more than per student than anyone else. And my biggest reservation with this are the students that have already been awarded something from the Kansas Comprehensive Grant that now are going to go in future years, if it's split between the colleges, the independents and the publics, that's going to be a number of students, 3,800 students that have been 3,800-ish that have been told they're going to get support that may not have that. If we make this split going to the independents, that's 1,400 less students in net that we're going to be able to help if we make this choice. And so if it makes it out, sure. I think that we'd be doing a disservice to the students that have already been told that they're going to have resources available to them, that have probably chosen the institutions they're going to because of what they've been promised. And so I will have to support, or not support, unfortunately have to oppose this amendment, but I appreciate the conversation.
Thank you, Representative. Further discussion? Further discussion on the amendment. Representative Smith.
I think private colleges, like I say, they bring in $1 billion a year to our economy, and they really need our support. I think they're crucial throughout the whole state. So again, I know it's a good sum of money, but I think it's money that they bring in, and I think it's money that'll make us a better state. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Woodard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think just if it's helpful to the member who spoke, this impact, if imposed, would negatively impact 370 students at Pittsburgh State University. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Woodard, would you mind citing your source of information with the committee?
Happy to. I asked for information from the Board of Regents comparing the historical level of funding for the Kansas Comprehensive Grant, new state funding for this current year that we're in, and the potential change if a 50-50 amendment went on.
Thank you, Representative. If you'd be able to, I don't know if there's a way to share that with the committee at some point, or at least for the record, I would appreciate it. Thank you. Is there any further discussion or any questions? If not, we'll proceed to vote on the blue amendment to appropriate the Kansas Comprehensive Grant Program as outlined in the proposed amendment before you. All in favor of the blue amendment signify by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. The blue amendment is adopted. Hey, anything else for independent colleges? I ask a question of myself, but maybe perhaps there's someone else that would like to offer an amendment. Representative Rajas?
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment.
Yes.
I've only
Staff knows which one it is, so they'll distribute that and you can explain your amendment.
What this is, we have done this before in this committee, and this is $500,000 for the private independent college engineering initiative. We are looking for engineers all the time. We do have some of our independents now have engineering programs. And so what this would be, they will be to help in this process. The expenditures and account made upon certification by the CEO of the institution, and the private money is available to match. It's a match of the expenditure of the state money, 1-to-1. So what this is it'd be $1 million program to the private independent colleges as they create more engineers that hopefully will stay in Kansas.
Thank you, Representative Rajas. Is there any questions for the revisor or KLRD staff? Do I hear a second? It's been seconded by Representative Smith of the Rajas Amendment. Further discussion? Representative Smith.
I know when the Pittsburgh State president was up here, he was talking about the different programs, and I've always heard where the engineers that were graduating from Pittsburgh State. So I called the head of the dean of the department. I said, "Hey, what's the difference between your degree and KU's degree?" And he said, "Well, ours is not licensed." So as I talked to him, I said, "Why don't we go ahead and get licensed at Pittsburgh? If give them the chance to get that license." And so I think some of these, like Benedictine is starting an engineering program. I could see a Pittsburgh State starting an engineering program as well. With so I think we're going to add to it. It's too silly for them to get so close and not go ahead and get licensed. And I think in the future we're going to see more and more people, hopefully from Pittsburgh State and hopefully from Benedictine and other places getting licensed. So I think this is a good start for the engineering program.
Thank you, Representative. And if I do remember correctly, Benedictine, their engineering program is already accredited. They're ABET accredited just as a Regent University. Is there any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote with the Rajas Amendment for the engineering initiative for the private colleges. This is SGF money, so it's outside of the University Engineering Initiative. Just wanted to make that clear because that is funded using proceeds from the lottery, and this is not. So it's a little different. So, any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. Motion passes. Is there anything further regarding the Kansas independent colleges or universities? Okay, if not, I'll ask the committee, does anybody need a break? Okay. All right, we'll proceed. Wanted to circle back to see if there's any outstanding issues from yesterday we didn't get to. I know we didn't plan on calling it early, but given the fact that a member had to leave for a family emergency, thought that was a good stopping point. But is there anything from yesterday that we need to revisit?
Chairman?
Representative Rajas.
You've heard from me far too much today, but upon further review and yesterday with the piece that came from Emporia State, I would move that we add $17 million for Emporia State University operating, $9 million for fiscal year 2024, and $8 million for fiscal year 2025.
Representative Rajas, is that based off of the amendment proposed yesterday? Same language or same numbers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is exactly the same language except not going out to 2026. And the reason why, Mr. Chairman, is typically we don't do 3-year appropriations through this process. And so that would go into another legislative year, cycle. So with this 2 years, the funding level remains the same as yesterday, but would like to have that reconsidered or go back to.
Thank you, Representative. Any questions for the reviser KLRD? Do I hear a second? Representative Smith. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Is there any discussion? If not, Representative Smith, or sorry, Representative Fairchild.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are we going to get this handed out to us?
Representative Fairchild, so if you have a copy of yesterday's amendment still, I believe it's the same language, although it just appropriates funding for fiscal year 24 and 25.
Mr. Chairman, it takes out the third section of the sheet from yesterday. The $7.5 million for fiscal year 2026 has been removed in my motion.
So Representative Rogers, that would be a lesser amount overall.
Yes, the total would be 17 million for the 2 years.
All right, thank you. Representative Woodard.
Mr. Chair, just a clarifying question. This is the same thing that we did yesterday, moving it to omnibus. It just moves it up to put it back in the budget.
It just puts it back in the budget.
The
yes.
motion was for the 2 years.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of the Rogers Amendment for Emporia State University signify by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Motion, it appears the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. Motion carries. Okay, is there anything else from yesterday that we need to revisit? Representative Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can we visit today as well?
Representative Smith.
Just what we've said today. I don't know if I'm correct in saying this or not, but
to reconsider something from today. Yes. Yeah.
The comment was made that 340 Pitt State students, and I'm sure that affects other colleges also. Is it okay to say that we talk about that ominous in the appropriations, that if they are losing it, that money can possibly be made up out of the state general fund or whatever?
Representative, I think anything's possible really in this process. Certainly things could be revisited in appropriations or at omnibus. Again, we're kind of the starting point for their budget recommendations. So nothing dies until after sine die in the Capitol or the legislature. So I would say it's not the end of the story. So if there's parties involved that want to advocate for a change, we could certainly entertain those.
Well, we talked about maybe just noting something. I was wondering if we could just note that so they're, I can check into it and talk about it or whatever. So thank you very much.
Representative Fairchild.
I would just note that we ended up at 61,634,260 above Governor Kelly's budget recommendations by my calculation.
Representative Woodard.
Jill and I have been playing making sure we have the same numbers game going on. Yeah, we match for fiscal year 2024. It's $54,684,260. For fiscal year 25, it's $15.85 million, which is 70.
Vice Chair Blue.
Thank you. I just want to double check though with research and Jill. Did you get the 5% on the tiered and non-tiered? Because I just took that times 5% and that's an additional 8 million. Is that added in your number? Oh, it's not new money. Okay, sorry about that.
All right. Anything further that we need to reassess? Part in for policy only provisos. I'm not sure 10 minutes would be sufficient to get through it, but we can try. So with that, I do have a proposed amendment. No, this one has to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion and hiring practices. Staff would like to distribute that, and I'll try to do my best to. It's really a topic that's come up a lot in, I guess, the public square, if you will. You know, what does diversity, equity, and inclusion mean? If you went and asked 10 people, you might get 10 different answers of what that means to them. So, but in the realm of higher education, it is a topic that has come up not only here in Kansas, but in other states as well. I do know that there was a proviso offered in the Senate and the Senate Ways and Means Committee that was adopted last week. And so the Senate is in the process of taking a position on that. I think it would behoove us as a House body to take a position on this particular issue. So what I've done is I've taken the Senate amendment and made some adjustments. So if I would ask the reviser could kind of go over this with the committee. When you have a chance. Well, I guess I should say, you know, this is the first time the committee is seeing this, so they may not have their questions yet, but if you wanted to go over it, just review it briefly, just from a high level, then if there's any questions, we can go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what this proviso does, it's for fiscal year 24 and 25, and no money shall be expended by any post-secondary educational institution. And as a post-secondary educational institution is defined here, it would be like the Big Six and technical colleges and community colleges. So basically all public higher ed institutions. So no money could be expended to compel, require, induce, or solicit, encourage any applicant, employee, student, or contractor to endorse or oppose any ideology, including the ideology of diversity, equity, or inclusion. And it would also prohibit them to compel somebody to provide a statement articulating their experiences or commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, unless it's permitted to do so down in paragraph 2. And then also they could not, the universities or the post-secondary educational institutions could not provide preferential consideration to any of those persons if such person provided an unsolicited statement of commitment to diversity, equity, or inclusion. And then the exception is basically when a institution is considering in good faith an applicant, employee, student, or contracts scholarship, teachings, or subject matter expertise in their respective field. So if you would be asking them this information because of a position you're having or maybe a scholarship you're having, in the university that would cover that, then you would be allowed, if it was a good faith attempt, to ask them those things for that reason, then you indeed could ask them that. And then it further goes on to say that nothing in this subsection shall be construed to authorize the institution to limit or restrict academic freedom of any faculty member or prevent such faculty member from teaching, researching, or writing. And then the institution's Office of General Counsel would transmit a report on June 30, on or before June 30 in 2024, and then also again in 2025, stating a written report stating the institution's compliance with this. And then that written report would also be submitted, a copy of that would be sent to KLRD and the Attorney General. Am I taking too much time? I'm sorry.
No, given the fact that we have, members have a 3:30 committee, and we really don't have enough time to go through with this, in full explanation, I'm going to call that we resume, budget recommendations tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. So we can continue this discussion on this proviso. I have an additional proviso as it relates to freedom of speech. You may distribute that one as well, so you have time to review it. And hopefully you can come back tomorrow with your questions. But my hope on the DEI proviso is for us to have an opportunity as a House governing body to have a position which I believe is a middle ground in which can protect our universities, it can protect our faculty, it can protect our students. And I think perhaps there could be some concerns with the language that was offered in the Senate. So that's kind of where I was coming from. I will get into a little bit more about diversity, equity, and inclusion on college campuses tomorrow, but I would encourage all staff members to read I sent it out by email earlier this morning, but it's, if you have any questions about that, it's from the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression. So please review that and come back tomorrow with any questions. But as of now, the meeting is adjourned.